right, check it out. Is it playing?
Mm-hmm. You guys that's why we're here. No, sir.
I'm really sitting far off. That's okay. All right, everybody ready?
Yes, we are ready.
All right, recess is over. Let's get ready for class.
Come to order.
Missed you.
Well, I've been here all the time.
Yes.
Okay, you know, the more I think about it, the more I realize that, you know, there isn't one disease that you can justify, you know? Everything that accumulates can be reversed. And what we've got to realize is that there's really only two reasons. You know, we hear so much talk about all the pollution that we're exposed to, but there's a great scientific experiment that they did years ago that kind of clarified it in my mind what I've been observing and knowing, and that is where they were experimenting on sheep to find out how radiation affects the body. And they built a pen right under these big high-powered power lines and studied the sheep month after month after month, and they found no negative effects of the radiation on the sheep. And they were wondering, what? Now, there's got to be some negative effects because they're right under these power lines 24 hours a day. But then they realized that because of the sharp hooves grounding their bodies out, the radiation moved right through the body and it didn't affect them at all. And what I've been observing is all this toxic material is exactly the same way. We can be exposed to all of it, but as long as we don't hold on to it, as long as it moves right on through the body, it doesn't cause any problem. In fact, chemotherapy is a good example. A person with cancer that is receiving chemotherapy. I've worked with a few people that came to me completely bald, no hair whatsoever because of the chemotherapy. But getting the pathways of elimination opened up and being able to get rid of the excess residue so that it couldn't accumulate, they grew a full head of hair, each one of them, even though they continued taking the chemotherapy. And so it helped me to realize, between those two ideas, it helped me to realize that it isn't what we're exposed to that accumulates and causes the problem. It's what we hold on to. Because we believe in fear, and you know, nobody likes to sit around talking about their fears, of course, so we found a sociably acceptable word called stress that contracts the body and causes us to hold on to all this stuff and accumulate it. It's the accumulation that causes the problems. And so what we're going to make sure of that we do tonight is talk about what I call the flow of detoxification, and take a look very clearly at the 5 areas where that hose that drains the septic system of the body gets kinked, and get all 5 kinks out so that we get a complete flow. We get that flow going and get this stuff cleared out of the body, and then what can disease be made of? Now I want to cover the 6. I'm going to actually, did we send that one out today?
Yes.
Okay, if the 6 substances disease is made of. Okay, so chemicals, metals, dead tissue cells, unusable food residue, mucus, and acid waste. Okay, all of that together, when it's being eliminated from the body, is considered fecal matter, but it doesn't matter where it's trapped, whether it's the acid waste locked into the tissue or what of these 6 components. That's the actual substance degenerative disease is made of. Now you think of the natural end result of the loss of energy in the body and the stagnation and low oxygenation they call cancer. Cancer is a very natural end result of all those factors. But still, keep in mind those cancer cells turn parasitic and they love sewage. Okay? They love low vitality. Every form of parasitic life form loves low energy, low oxygenation. Everything that is bad for us, they love. There's our clue right there. all of them hate high vitality, oxygenation, and everything, and properly digested nutrients. They love rotting food waste. They love this sludge that disease is made of. Okay? So disease is really not a destructive force that is attacking us, trying to destroy us. Disease is actually a natural result of the stagnation and lowered vitality and the life essence being destroyed from the body, being removed from the body. Okay? Now keep in mind, you cannot destroy any form of energy. You can only convert it to a different form or move it to another place. And so the vitality that is missing from the body, where in the heck is it? We think that our energy is just low in the body and it's just sleeping, or it's paralyzed or something else. No, it's gone. It's gone from the body. Here's the nasty news. A synonym for life energy is joy. And so that joy that is missing from your body, of course, it's not destroyed, is it? It only got moved from your body to another place. Where is that joy that is missing from your body? It's out there somewhere having a blast without you. Right? And it will happily come back, but here's the bottom line of it. There's only so much room in the body. You can only have a body filled with joy or fecal matter. You can't have both. To the degree that it's filled with fecal matter, it forces the joy out. So what do we have to do, first of all, to get more joy coming back into the body? You got to drain the sewage system. Okay? Make sense? Because sewage destroys energy. In other words, sewage destroys joy. Okay, so if you phoned up Roto-Rooter and asked Roto-Rooter to come and detoxify your body, what would they do? They would come and start at the bottom end and unscrew the plug to drain the sewage, right? Okay. Yes, colon hygienist. One way of doing it. Okay, you start out with the trash can. The colon is basically a trash can. And when we hold abdominal fears as children and eat sticky foods and a few other things, we end up with constipation, right? Okay, if as children the intestinal tract could be kept clear, we wouldn't start overloading the filtering system. And if the filtering system didn't get clogged up, then we wouldn't load the lymphatic system in the whole body. But because by the time we're 20 years of age, it's already too late. The intestinal tract has been slowed down for a few years. The filtering system, by the time we're 20 years of age, our gallbladders are already full. So we're already starting to back up the lymphatic system. And just exactly like the automobile, when the filters get clogged up and the oil gets loaded with particles of carbon, dust, acid waste, all the same garbage that we're cycling in our blood, when that gets overloaded, the engine starts to age rapidly. Same way, from the age of 20 years of age, our gallbladders are already full, starts backing up the liver, trashing the whole body, and that's when we start aging, is right to that peak when we get up to 20 years of age. We actually start aging at that point. We've got good momentum with all the hormones and everything to where it doesn't seem to be affecting us, and we only find out about this when it's too late, when we hit 40 and realize, dang, life is already escaping from my body too rapidly, right? We're already aging. Once the lymphatic system starts stagnating, if you take a look at the cellular level, what's happening when the filtering system starts backing up and getting overwhelmed, the brain is desperately trying to keep the blood as clean as possible, and so what it'll do is it'll start tightening the muscles right under the collarbones. This is where all the lymph in the body is brought and dumped into the bloodstream for the liver to have to take care of that acid waste. Now this is the reason why, if you have lymphatic problems, I'll guide you through the understanding of why lymphatic massage and lymphatic drainage isn't the secret here. You've got to get that somewhere, you've got to give that stuff somewhere to go. And the reason why your brain backed it up is because the liver couldn't handle the workload. Now here's another thing. Keep in mind that all that lymph is carrying what away from the tissue cells? Acid waste. And if you have so much acid waste and you don't have enough buffers in the bloodstream, keep in mind this is the reason why people develop psoriasis, eczemas, and different skin problems, is because the blood can't receive that acid waste. And pretty soon it gets so heavy that the body has to get rid of it, so it pushes it directly out through the skin without having been buffered. And so as an irritating acidic substance, it moves out through the skin, destroying the skin and causing skin disorders. There are very few actual skin disorders. Most of them have everything to do with the content of the blood and the lymph, trying to get out of the system. If you were successful in forcing a heavy dumping of the lymphatic system into the bloodstream, you could actually kill yourself. Because if you drop the pH very much below 7.4, you can die. So actually, skin disorders like that are saving your life, when you think about that. So basically what we really need is, besides helping the gallbladder and the liver get clear so that they could open up like that, we need more buffers. And the body's #1 choice for a mineral to buffer the acidity is organic sodium, like from celery and other vegetables. And this is another reason why it's important that every single person, for not only hydration purposes, but also for chemistry balancing, every single person needs healthy salt. Because you can balance your electrolytes. Now keep in mind, healthy salts like the Celtic salt, the Himalayan real salt, all of those, that's all dirt. It's not food, it's dirt. But we can maintain electrolyte balance with that dirt, and we can perform chemistry functions within the body. And two, the body can, that's the first substance out through the skin when you perspire, is sodium chloride. So it helps to detoxify the body. So we can use that dirt for a lot of good reasons. Why waste organic sodium when it's tough enough to get enough of that into the body to neutralize all the acids? And so the rule of thumb, of course, is that Dr. Batmanjalik came up with is for every 2 quarts of water that you consume, you need a ½ teaspoon of healthy salt on your food. Not necessarily in the water, but on your food. It's got to be just kind of an estimate, obviously. But to maintain that balance will not only help you to take care of your chemistry and leave the organic sodium alone to neutralize the acidity, but makes your food more interesting. Helps you to perspire, to do your detox baths, and a lot of other benefits. Okay? But with the having those buffers, now your lymph could move if there's somewhere for it to go, if your brain would allow it. So the next thing we got to do is we got to get the kink out of these 2 areas. Okay? Before I talk more about gallbladder, let's move back to a more important starting point, and that is back to the colon again. How do we get that colon working better? First of all, the lower back is the most common cause for strictures in the colon that inhibit complete evacuation. Now, you know, with all the people that I talk with, most of them that aren't obviously constipated feel that they're regular because they have that one good bowel movement a day and then they have 3 meals each day also. The math doesn't add up, obviously. Where's peristalsis? You know, peristalsis is the muscular contractions that take the residue from one meal and move it all the way through the intestinal tract and out the other end, separate from everything else. But we've been kind of brainwashed to believe that we're Play-Doh factories where we put stuff in this end and it forces it out the other end. That's not right. Even though that's pretty common. It's still not right. Okay, so we've got to work on improving the tone, the muscular tone, and getting it working right. And that's basically what we've been working on here, is simplifying the process to where we can get the body, support the body to where it can normalize its own functions. That's the major difference between treatment of symptoms and body chemistry support. The innate wisdom of your body already knows exactly what to do and how to do it, and if it were able to do it, it would. If it were able to, it would. There's 2 reasons why our bodies don't correct themselves. One, we don't give them enough energy. We utilize all of our energy for accomplishment and things that we want to do, and so there isn't enough energy left for the body to properly heal itself. The other reason is we develop structural reasons or damage, or maybe there's an extreme deficiency or an accumulation, blockage, or whatever. And that's what body chemistry support is all about, is understanding what the agenda is of the body itself. What does the body want to do? And what can we do to support it in more effectively accomplishing what it needs to do? Okay, there's certain things that we need to do. We need to step in and give it that extra help. And one of those is to open up the nerve flow from the lower back. Get that nerve flow opened up so that we don't have strictures retaining a certain volume of waste material in the intestinal tract, so that we get complete evacuation. The next one is rebuild the peristalsis, and that's what our fiber drink is all about, is to actually rebuild it. It's designed to be used on an ongoing basis from now on. The fiber, I found the fiber in vegetables is far overrated. We need soluble and insoluble so that we can bring more water down deeper into the intestinal tract to hydrate the intestinal tract so that it'll work better, and so that things slip along instead of sticking. Okay? So, to exercise the intestinal tract with sufficient fiber, stimulate the movement with, you know, we used to use mild herbal laxatives. What we've been working with for the last 3 months, 4 months, every time it flies, it's probably been a year now, is the ozonated magnesium, because you get 3 benefits from that. You get the relaxation of the strictures, you get the stimulation of movement, but you also get an oxygenation of the intestinal tract to help purify it. So you get 3 benefits while it's busy driving the fiber through the intestinal tract. And then, of course, the probiotics and prebiotics to get the internal flora balanced, because, of course, 70% of our immune system is relying on that gut bacteria. So it's pretty important for the overall immune system to make sure that the bacteria is balanced in the intestinal tract. We don't often realize it, but if you take a look at your blood periodically, it's amazing how much of the immune system is actually being destroyed because of the recycling of the toxic material from the colon that doesn't get neutralized. See, that's the main reason that I'm seeing through the blood work that why we need to balance that bacteria is to neutralize the toxicity of this poison. That, keep in mind, this is a trash compactor that's working through dehydration. It's actually the keeping us hydrated by pulling the fluids from the waste material so that we don't dehydrate so quickly. But those fluids being pulled out of that waste material, if we don't have the friendly bacteria to neutralize that stuff, that's pretty nasty stuff, you know. Poop tea, being thrown into your bloodstream 24 hours a day. That's pretty serious stuff. But with the proper intestinal flora, it will neutralize that. So rather than poisoning ourselves 24 hours a day, we're just keeping hydrated. Make sense? Okay. So I don't think there's enough, there's a lot of promotion on probiotics and prebiotics and probiotics, as though we all know exactly why that's important. But when you stop and think about the fact that we need that to neutralize the toxic effects of that water that's coming back into our bloodstreams 24 hours a day, then it becomes more real that we should make sure that that's balanced. Okay? Of course, the one priority higher than taking care of that colon and everything is remember that when we digest food, it's our life force that is actually being sacrificed for that job, because basically the body takes the life force and converts it into digestive enzymes to break our food down. And the reason why by the time we're 40 years of age we can't produce enough hydrochloric acid is one reason is because of the life force being already used up to such a degree by the time we hit 40. That's the reason why we all hit that intuitive knowingness that, wow, if I don't start pulling brakes on now, I can't live like I did through my 30s. If I do that through the 40s, I'll be dead before I hit 50. We have this knowingness inside that the battery's almost dead. We better start conserving quick. Then we try and tell 20 and 30-year-olds what we've learned, and they laugh at us just like we laughed at everybody else. It just kind of perpetuates. How can a 30-year-old that feels like they can do anything believe that in 10 more years the battery's going to be dead? Life is going to be so drastically different. I guess it's just one of those things that'll always be the same. But since pain, suffering, and dead batteries has forced us to become wise, now we know better for ourselves, and we can figure out, okay, now how in the heck do I get that charge back in the battery? Well, the starting point is get the poison cleared that is busy destroying the charge in that battery. The second thing is stop and realize that we're the ones that keep overspending that energy. It's often easiest to compare energy to money and realize that most adults are energetically bankrupt, and we need to start a savings account, and we need to consider where we put most of our energy and think about where we're putting energy uselessly that we can start conserving and start getting a little bit of a savings account. Because that's what we're really talking about here, is getting energy back. Everything depends on energy. As we know, if we get enough energy back into the body, or enough joy back into the body can heal itself of most everything. It's lack of energy that is causing most of the problems. Enhancing the digestion of the foods that we're consuming with supplemental plant enzymes. And the other thing, let's don't forget the reason why we were provided with teeth. You know what, all the time when we've grown up eating quite a bit of cooked foods, we were spoiled because cooking breaks down the cellulose and we get the nutrients from the cells. We don't have any cellulase in our bodies. And so if we're eating more raw foods, what doesn't get broken? What cells don't get broken by the teeth? We don't get the groceries inside. It comes out the same way as it went in, because we have no cellulase enzymes. Now the plant enzymes that you take with your meals, of course, has cellulase, but let's don't rely on that. That's kind of a cleanup. That's an extra bonus. Let's use the teeth. In fact, some of you may remember hearing of a man named Fletcher back about 60, 70 years ago. He'd just go around and teach people how to chew their food better and he's clearing up all kinds of health problems. Why? Because he was improving the digestion of the food that they were already eating so that their bodies could get the nutrients out of that food. Otherwise, it's a waste of time eating if we just swallow the stuff that comes out the way it went in, and then we supplement with everything that we're not getting. But if we take advantage of improving the digestion of the food that we're already eating, we'll get to the point as we get a higher quality of nutrition going into our bodies. Pretty soon there's no need for supplementing. All we need to do is make sure that we find vegetables that have the trace minerals in, because that's the toughest supplement for us to get into our bodies and assimilate, because most soils are now so depleted of the trace minerals. That's one reason why in all of the essential lights I put just plain old kelp in that. Kelp used to be one of the best supplements you could ever find because it was all the minerals, but it was such an inexpensive thing, the industry couldn't make enough money, so they dropped it. All the really good whole food concentrates they started moving away from, kelp, bruise, yeast, and a lot of those things, and started getting into the isolated vitamins and minerals, and the body had more of a difficult time figuring out what to do with these things. So the food that we eat on a daily basis is very important, because the body knows exactly what to do with that if we chew it well and get it digested. Okay? And that's the goal, to get to the point where we don't have to supplement, because we've overcome all the nutritional deficiencies of the body, and we're providing the body with the food that has the nutrients in. Now keep in mind, another thing is, to the degree that we're loaded with this sewage, it forces metabolism. It destroys cells faster and forcing us to have to replace them quicker. Excuse me a second. Putting the air on before everybody falls asleep. Okay. We've got to reduce cellular destruction. The sewage level in the body is what causes the cellular destruction. And so the more effective we are at getting the sewage out of the body, we need less nutrients. It's just like what we've always heard. A clean engine uses less fuel. Same way with the body. If the body isn't, see, we get a brand new body every 11 months. All the soft tissue of the body replaced brand new. I believe that the average person, none of you here, but the average person out there that's staggering out of McDonald's, some of these places, I think they get a new body quicker, much quicker. Why? Because the old body, all those cells are being destroyed so rapidly, the body is being forced to replace them, creating greater hunger and a lot of other problems. Cellular destruction, we've got to slow it down by getting the sewage out of the body. And we can get the cells to be almost atomic. There's no reason for us to be replacing the body every 11 months. I believe that we can slow it down to the point where we're barely replacing those cells. That's the average 11 months, because the average person is very toxic. What would happen if we're not poisoning those cells to death? Now all of a sudden we're slowing metabolism, we're slowing the cellular destruction, we're bringing energy into the body, and the body is now able to function the way it was really designed. Okay? We're going to work our way up through all 5 areas where this hose is being kinked. We already covered the lower back, the associated stricturing of the colon. The third kink is the gallbladder. Oh, let me jump back to the intestinal tract one more time before we go on. How many of you are doing the biofilm flush right now? Starting tomorrow? Okay, good. Okay, the reason for that, for those of you that aren't aware of what and why the biofilm flesh. The reason why you hear about H. pylori and Candida being so difficult sometimes to get rid of is because of the biofilm. It's a brilliant it's one of the oldest techniques for survival there is, and that is colonize. Get into a colony and build yourself a little fort so nobody can kill you. Well, that's what these guys are doing. They're building little forts in our intestinal tract made of mucus and toxic metals and garbage. It reminds me, when I think about it in my head, it reminds me of a rat's nest. You know, a rat will take anything to build its little nest out of, and that's what the biofilm is all about. It's toxic metals, chemicals, mucus. It's anything they can get their hands on to build this little fort of protection to where our stomach acids can't kill them, the immune system can't get at them, and they're down there just incubating like crazy, producing offspring by the billions. You cut your sugar intake way down, well, they have to slow down production, but you're not killing them. You know, you're starving them out in the blood and maybe the tissue, but as soon as you have that next sugar, bang, they're in full production again. Every single person that has had a systemic condition of Candida has experienced that. They work so hard to starve it right down. The very next sugar, full production. Okay, and the H. pylori, the same thing. It's a biofilm that makes it difficult. So what we've got to do is focusing on the core of the entire body, which is the intestinal tract. That's what determines the content of the blood and the quality of the chemistry and the health of the whole body. And so the primary starting point is always the intestinal tract. And anytime you have a flu or any problem, a fever, anything, clear the tube first. Then clean the blood and the lymph through a detox bath. And 99% of the time, you're great within a day or two. Any of the flus or anything, it doesn't matter what the triggering mechanism is. You know, we're being brainwashed and bombarded with, oh, watch out for this virus. Those are triggering mechanisms, and a trigger has never hurt anybody ever. A triggering mechanism is nothing more than an activating mechanism that releases what? What is all that stuff that you blow out your nose, you create diarrhea out of? It's the stuff that we ate. It's not multiplied virus. Viruses are not that tough unless we're feeding them, and unfortunately the average person does look like a catering truck to these little organisms. Okay, they love rotting food waste, and unfortunately we usually have too much of that stuff for them. Okay, so what we need to do, everything that I'm presenting is a transitional process. Okay, what we're working toward is, see, since we get a new body every year, we want the next body to be made out of less fecal matter. Every body made with less fecal matter. Brand new cells every year. You know, the secret to the wrinkles on the body, you know, the reason why those cells wrinkle, it's not because they're old. Those cells, those brand new little cells, see, all of the arteries throughout the entire body get a buildup, right? An accumulation gets a buildup. What happens to the capillaries close to the surface of the skin after so many years of all this overwhelm of arterial plaque in the gallbladder, liver, arteries, and everything else? We're clogging all up like this. Well, the capillaries, they're so small, they just plug up. And so, how in the heck are those brand new little flat, fat, plump cells that are being formed at the surface of the body, how are they going to get hydrated and fed? With the capillaries plugged up. So as soon as they're born, they start dehydrating. They're not old cells, they're just starved cells, dehydrated cells. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, now if we keep that gallbladder cleared out, keep exercising and everything, we start clearing the arteries and we give it somewhere to go. The only reason we've accumulated all this stuff is because we didn't know about the 5 kinks in the hose that backed everything up and caused us to age. But that is aging, is the toxic substance. Dr. Alexis Carroll, I know a lot of you heard of his experiment about 100 years ago of keeping the tissue cells of a chicken heart in a vat, and he discovered death and disease is not in the cell. It's in the fluid surrounding the cell. What are we talking about? The lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is where death and disease is. Okay? Now, you stop and think about all these kinks in the hose backing everything up. At the cellular level, when you got a back pressure of lymphatic fluids, now what is the lymph supposed to do? It's supposed to wash acid waste away from the tissue cell. Tissue cell is busy producing, drawing in a nutrient, producing an energy, and putting out an acid waste. The lymph is supposed to carry that away. If there's a back pressure on the lymphatic system, it isn't carrying the acid waste away, and so all the fluid surrounding every cell is acidic, toxic, and acidic. Then pretty soon the back pressure forces the cell to no longer be able to get rid of the acid waste, and it starts accumulating in the cell and killing the mitochondria. These are the little worker bees that are busy producing the ATP for our energy. Okay? Now every cell in the body is an energy producer in two ways. One, sodium-potassium pump. Forces sodium into the cell pushes it back out. That makes an electrical generator. We have trillions of electrical generators. The second way is the mitochondria. Now each decade beyond 30, we're killing more and more of those little mitochondria. We got to get that fluid moving. That's the reason for the gallbladder flushes, the roller to open up the back to get that liver and gallbladder strengthened, and the trampoline to move the lymph naturally. If we can keep this, if we can get this stuff moving, now keep in mind, once that gallbladder and liver have been blocked up for a decade or so, or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, the lymph will actually coagulate. It coagulates like jello. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit more work to get that going once it has somewhere to go, and once your brain can see that we have enough buffers to buffer and neutralize the acids from that lymph. We got to do two things. We got to get the gallbladder and liver clearing, and we've got to provide ourselves enough of the organic sodium to be able to buffer that lymph. Then we exercise enough, all movement, breathing and all movement will move the lymph. The trampoline just does it better. Any trampoline. The big ones are more fun. But you slowly start moving that fluid. And pretty soon, it takes a while to break that jello down and get it moving again. But if we consistently work at it, it will happen. Okay? Okay, so we've got the lower back opened up, got the colon working now, gallbladder flushes. I used to believe, yeah, if you get a good gallbladder flush, maybe every 6 months, ought to be good. And then I got this crazy thought a few years ago, and I stated that it seems like we need a gallbladder flush for every year of our lives just to get caught up with the backlog. And for the first few months, I was thinking, wow, that's crazy, that's crazy. The more I observe it, I realized, no, that's spot on. One gallbladder flush for every year of our lives to get caught up with the backlog. Because remember, who knows how many gallbladder flushes it's going to take to get the gallbladder cleared if it could catch up, because the liver, as soon as you dump some out, the liver's going to load it up again. Now keep in mind that how common it is for a person to have what they call a fatty liver. Now that isn't like fat in the liver. It's not a fat liver. It's the same garbage. It's the arterial plaque that is loaded up in the gallbladder, backing into the liver and enlarging it with the same garbage. So we've got to clear that out. And then anybody that looks at your blood under the microscope, you'll see arterial plaque everywhere. Why? Because the liver can't handle it. It's still out there, re-adhering to the arterial walls, trapping between the tissues. The body's accumulating this stuff. So one gallbladder after the other, gallbladder flush after the other, pretty soon the liver can start functioning better, clean the blood up, then you start a lifetime reversal from the arteries. And eventually, through exercise, gallbladder flushes, and a decent diet, you reverse that lifetime accumulation of arterial plaque that is responsible for killing more people than anything in this country. There is no reason for heart disease, no reason whatsoever. The focus has been on lowering cholesterol levels, which is ignorance, horrible ignorance. We need cholesterol. The brain needs cholesterol. The adrenal glands need cholesterol. The arteries need cholesterol. And you start lowering that, thinking that that's going to get rid of arterial plaque somehow. The arterial plaque is, the oxidized arterial plaque is the substance that is actually causing the problem, not the cholesterol level. And so basically what we need to do is just take out the trash, because that's what it is. Oxidized arterial plaque is the trash of the cholesterol, mostly made up of lipoprotein A, which was produced by the liver to patch the arteries because they were cracking due to either a deficiency of vitamin C or the use of vegetable oils. Those are the two reasons. Those are the two causes: vitamin C deficiency and the use of vegetable oils. Okay, we get rid of those two problems and then get that flow going to reverse that accumulation in the liver and gallbladder, and then you start reversing the whole lifetime accumulation. Okay? So lower back, intestinal tract, get those biofilms cleared, like we're doing here. That should be the starting point for anybody. The condition of the intestinal tract is everything. Okay? Get that intestinal tract cleared, then get the gallbladder, then get the liver clearing. You really don't have to worry so much about liver flushes if you get the gallbladder cleared out. The gallbladder is the trash can of the liver. And the main reason why the liver can't empty itself is because the trash can is full. You can't get more stuff going down through the trash can. Get the trash can cleared. The next thing is, after so long of the liver and gallbladder being overwhelmed, the muscle right in this area is in spasm. That's the point where the nerve flows from the spinal cord to the gallbladder. And when that tightens down, obviously both get weak. And so that's the reason for the 6-inch foam roller, to roll the upper back, to open up that nerve flow, to strengthen the gallbladder and the liver. You get that gallbladder cleared out, the liver will happily dump if you strengthen it by opening up that nerve flow. Anytime you have a problem internally, you're going to have an associated tightness in the spine. So if you have particular back problems in a particular area all the time, just realize it's a red flag telling you what you need to work on back here and in here. Okay? That's how they go together. Working the structure, opening up the nerve flow to strengthen the glands and organs to where they function better. Once you get the gallbladder cleaned out enough, you get the liver dumping, then that is the time when, if you have enough buffers in the bloodstream with organic sodium, and you're keeping your salt intake up, you're hydrated, then you can do the lymphatic drainage and more trampoline work, and you get that flow moving. Now you're starting to reverse the substance of aging and all disease. Okay? There is no other way. You know, look, now that you have that picture, okay, picture one more thing. What is the real cause for breast cancer? Can you see it in your mind? When the gallbladder gets full, the liver backed up, the lymphatic system stagnated. Of course, the lymph accumulates here. Now there's another principle that I want to tie into here, and that is the principle of sedation. The body uses calcium as its natural sedative to sedate pain. When the breast tissue gets irritated by this acid waste that is backed up, the breasts start calcifying. That's the real issue going on with arthritis, bone spurs, and every other form of calcification. It's the body's, in fact, fibromyalgia, another one, that's a whole body sedation. The individual has been poisoned through the whole lymphatic system for so long that the body is trying to sedate all the tissue of the entire body. And when that calcium eventually will crystallize as fibromyalgia, you've got sand throughout the entire body. As arthritis, you have an irritating substance that inflames the joints. Now keep in mind, in the beginning, the calcium wasn't the cause of the osteoarthritis. It was the nerve flow restriction from the spine that stagnated the lymph in the hands or the legs, feet, wherever, and the body trying to sedate the stress of the acid waste irritating the tissue. Sedating it with calcium, then the calcium crystallized and became the obvious irritant to the joint. With the breast, calcified breast, they've created a perfect formula for creating breast cancer. What they do is they keep doing mammograms again and again and again. By the time there's calcified breasts and you crush the tissue into those crystals, they immediately inflame. Then you radiate freshly inflamed tissue and you have the perfect formula for mutating cells. Okay? So keep in mind that thermography, and there are many other ways that are much better than mammograms. But another thing is, every single woman knows by pushing on the barometers that are at the outsides of the breast, pushing on them like this, you can tell. Those are your barometers that tell you how many gallbladder flushes you're behind. If you get rid of that pain on the sides, how in the heck can you develop a problem in the breast if that stuff has somewhere to go? If you're not stagnating the lymphatic waste in the breasts because you've got a clean gallbladder and the liver working properly, everything is flowing, you don't have to keep checking to decide or to discover what you're busy creating. And that's the way it is with all of health. You know, guess what? When you get enough of the fecal matter removed out of the entire body, the body becomes so sensitive and communicates with you so clearly that you know better than any doctor on the planet exactly what's going on in your body. If there's anything developing, you know it instantly, and you also, by doing the process that I'm teaching you, you know exactly what to do to reverse it, to where nothing does develop. We are in complete control of our bodies at all times. The scientific proof of that is when you study hair analysis and you take a look at the major minerals of the body, the calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium, which they call the engine of the body, which regulates all the function of the glands and organs. Okay? What determines the function of every gland and organ in the body is the tissue level of minerals and the ratios between those minerals. And what determines the tissue level and ratio of those minerals is your emotions. Not what you eat or don't eat. It's your emotions. Now that's a scientific fact, that indirectly our emotions collectively control the function of every gland and organ in the body. When we get embarrassed, our face will turn red immediately, the heart starts pounding a little harder. We know these instantaneous reactions to various emotions. Fear causes an instant contraction, but what you need to do is look at a broader, long-term effect of the body and see that the body is a barometer that collectively shows the crystallized result of all of our emotions. The body literally is the crystallized form of our emotional expressions. We're told we are what we eat. The truth is we are what we feel, and we eat according to how we feel.
Yes.
That can be a little bit of a trap. And that can also be a very good motivator for why we need to invite joy back into the body. See, our joy is out there just having a blast without us, and it will happily come back when we drain the sewage and when we invite joy back into the body. How do you invite joy back into the body besides draining the sewage out of the body? How else do we invite joy back into the body?
Reduce stress. Reduce.
Reduce stress? Yes.
Forgive.
Grounding.
Forgive, grounding,
I
sleep.
find that by my practicing smiling every time I open a door, that's a positive trigger for me. I release all kinds of good brain chemicals that make me happy,
Yeah.
and I'm way happier from that.
That's a good point, because just a little act like that seems so insignificant, every cell in our body is following our lead. And the forethought that you put into such a simple little act, before you do it, you thought about it, and you developed a habit of it, and so your whole body was listening through the evolutionary process as you got to the point where you made the commitment that you were actually going to keep doing that. Because that doesn't, you don't make a decision like that and just do it. It takes determination and a commitment. I'm going to do this every time. And with that whole thought process, every cell in the body followed right along with you. It's like that little movie, anybody see years and years ago, The Never-Ending Story?
Yeah, I've seen it.
That's the way all the cells in our body is. It's interactive with our thinking. They're going right along with the story. And when we come up with a story, and hey, I'm gonna smile every time I grab a doorknob and walk through a door, every cell in the body says, okay, that's our cue to get excited. It's a cue. Okay, we all need cues like that for inviting joy back into the body. I knew a guy that every time before he would do a presentation, he would think in his mind, I'm going on stage. Even if he's just stepping in front of a small group of people, he'd think, I'm going on stage, and he'd picture thousands of people watching him, and he would think, okay, I've got to be fully present, I've got to smile, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and he'd be fully aware, just like deciding to smile every time you walk through the door. The only difficulty that I've ever found in this whole process, because as you can see, it's very simple, right? The only difficulty that I've found is lack of commitment. It's a heck of a deal, but it's like a human curse. Have you experienced that curse in your own life? They used to state it as the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Kind of the same old thing. It's like, okay, how do I make that commitment to where I'll do that? Well, the best way that I've figured out is, okay, the reason why people fail at anything that they pursue is because the brain gets over enthusiastic and it chalks up too many things to do. It's like, okay, I can start out on level 10. Okay, that's good for 4 days, maybe 5 days, and then what happens? We go back to 0. The only way that we can move forward with any process as large as creating a level of health where disease can't exist is to start out where we're comfortable and where we can make a commitment. I'm going to do this much, no more, no less. And do that until we decide, okay, I'm ready for the next step. And then only add a baby step. Not a huge leap, but a baby step. But the key to it is making a commitment to add that step. Think it out, okay. Now, no matter how hectic my life gets, can I keep going with that extra step and not drop it, not go backwards? That's the commitment, is under all circumstances. It's kind of like the marriage vow, you know, not just during the good times and the bad times. It's for the rest of your life. It's a commitment, okay? Can you commit yourself to your body to follow those steps for the reversal of the accumulations? That's the work that we all have to do. We have a lifetime accumulation of garbage in the body, and we have a lifetime accumulation of damage where the body didn't have enough energy to be able to heal itself. It is a transitional process. You're not going to do it overnight. You're not going to do it in 2 years, 3 years. It's going to take time. But once you start and you make that commitment, you can look forward to being 110 years of age and being able to outdo 30-year-olds. Why? Because with time and wisdom, you gain endurance, wisdom, and other capabilities. It's kind of like a story that I heard a guy back when he was about 42 years old. He told me this story. He said that he went for a bike ride with a bunch of old guys. And he thought that it was really going to be a boring weekend. And at the first rest stop, he was about a quarter of a mile behind everybody else, and he finally caught up. And the one guy that gathered the group together and started the bike ride, about a 75-year-old guy, and he went up to him and he says, "Oh, I'm really embarrassed. I'm really sorry if I held you guys up." And he said, "Oh, don't worry about it, kid. When I was your age, I couldn't keep up either." In fact, one of the guys that has been on the program and doing this process, at this point, he started out with cancer and different problems about 10 years ago, but at this point, I saw him a few weeks ago, and he's into bodybuilding, and he was telling me when I was 35 years of age, he says, I couldn't have done anywhere near what I do right now. He says, I go down, I can't remember if he said he's pressing it 10 times or 20, but 550 pounds he's pressing with his legs about 20 times in a setting. And this is, he's been on the planet for just over 70 years.
Wow.
But he is not 70 years, his body is not 70 years old. It's getting younger every year. The cleaner we can get the body all the way to the core. And another thing beyond the body chemistry support, what I've been working on is different ways of targeting areas that we have abused in the past that we need to give special attention to. Eyes, adrenal glands, things like this. Brain, hormones. You know, we're being led to believe that the hormone imbalance is just some mystical, magical thing that just happens. No, it's exhausted glands. It's just exhausted glands. Now, there's one thing, Mother Nature kind of pulls the rug out from under us, because after we hit 30, we're not able to produce enough DHEA. And so that's the reason why I put together that hormone rescue formula. For men, it provides 50 milligrams of DHEA every day, and for women, 25. But everything else in there is to feed the glands. Now keep in mind, all the glands are stressed by the chemicals, metals, and all the garbage that we're cycling through the bloodstream. So we don't want to be moving forward and going backwards at the same time. So the cleaner we can get our blood, there isn't a more powerful medicine on the planet than clean, strong, healthy blood. So you get your blood clean and strong, and it's going to be like a medicine for those exhausted glands. Now you provide the specific herbs and nutrients that have been found to feed those glands, and you get the organs cleaned and functional like that. And what we're talking about is from whatever point you start, you're going to be reversing your actual tissue age. I had the opportunity to have an evaluation of energy put through my body to test all the glands and organs and everything. And one thing that I remember of is the function of my heart is that of a 30-year-old. And so you stop and think about it. Every gland or every cell in the body is being replaced brand new all the time. So where is age really? Okay? I plan on being a whole lot younger than I am right now by the time I'm 90. Okay? And I want to challenge all of you to do the same thing, because there's no reason for us to keep destroying ourselves. Because remember, there's only one actual cause for all disease: human self-destruct. We're doing it ourselves. We're doing it ourselves. Our daily lifestyle habits, what we do habitually, is what keeps destroying us. And that's why when we make this commitment to start turning it around, we want to start with what we can actually make a commitment to, and then add one little step to it after another, and just realize we're going for the long haul. We're going to do what we need to do to get all this sludge out of the body, and every year provide cleaner blood so that the new cells that are being produced are actually healthier and stronger than last year's. You know, it's too bad that all the while you're going through the detoxification process and doing this transition, this reversal, there's going to be a certain volume of sewage in our bloodstream. So those cells are going to be created out of a certain amount of sewage again and again and again. But if we keep that blood clean and keep getting it stronger, focusing on, first of all, the intestinal tract, because that's what determines the blood, and we keep getting it cleaner, stronger, the body keeps getting every year younger and healthier and stronger. Okay? So where do you begin? The intestinal tract. Digest the food better, sweep the garbage out, rebalance the flora. Number 2, clean the blood and lymph consistently. Now remember, we used to go out in the fields and work hard, perspire, and dump all this acid waste and metals and whatever we've been exposed to. But now, if our body is caught perspiring, what do? We run and turn the air conditioner down, cooler, right? We shut down the largest organ of elimination in the body. The skin is the largest organ of elimination in the body, and we shut it down. And then we sit far too much all day long, which shuts the trash can system down, so that we can't release in this way. How in the world can we ever do anything but just keep accumulating? There's age and destruction right there. Stagnation is the opposite of exercise and movement. Stagnation is another major issue. Okay, now, probably be sending out another newsletter tomorrow. I would have printed them up and handed them out, but I know myself that whenever you get notes from a presentation like this, you don't read them. So it'll come to you in your email tomorrow. And it'll be the 7 steps that are just the simple basics. If that's all you ever did, you'd stop the destruction and you'd start turning it around. Okay? What I want to do is just keep simplifying and keep building that up to where everyone that is interested will have the roadmap and know exactly what you can do to keep reversing And the most important thing is setting the goal in your mind of what you want to accomplish. You know, the goal has been put onto us of doing all this work to avoid dying of a horrible, painful, degenerative disease. Well, that's a lousy goal. It's a very lousy goal. What we want to do is picture ourselves at 100 years of age out playing with the kids and outdoing them with their play. It's like the same guy that I was telling you about a little while ago. That's another thing that he mentioned. He says, if my 35-year-old met me on the basketball court right now, he says, I could kick his butt so easily. That's the endurance, the wisdom, the confidence that we gain by years. There's a presence that we create and the wisdom. Why, you know, that was one of the main things that inspired me to call this process 35 for Life. Is when I saw that movie 18 again, that was always one of my favorite movies, to think of what it would be like to have the wisdom of an 81-year-old stuck into an 18-year-old body. You know, when you think about, you know, one of the my favorite parts is like when how many of you saw the movie and know what I'm talking about? Nobody? 18 again is the name of the movie. Old movie with George Burns. He was the grandfather, and his grandson was 18, and they both, at the grandfather's birthday party, wished that they could be each other, and then they got in a car accident and they swapped bodies. And so here's George Burns' 18-year-old body, and he stuck his cigar in his mouth, and he went to strike the match, and the book of matches fell on the ground. He thought, oh shoot. And he grabbed his back and he went down to pick up the matches like he always did as an 81-year-old, and he realized how easy it was, and he thought, wow. So he threw them on the floor again, or ground, and swooped down, picked them up, and thought, wow, this is cool. I don't have all the aches and pains and everything. I'm flexible, I can do all these things. That's the thing, is we've got to set the goal in our minds of what would it feel like to have the wisdom of our years, but the flexibility and the vitality and the abilities of a 20-year-old, 30-year-old. If we don't set that goal, and if that isn't what we strive for, then we're not going to hit it. We will just avoid developing disease. And like I said, that's a very low goal. What we need to do is start thinking, okay, if I had a 25 or 30-year-old body, and I'm 80 years old or whatever age, what would I like to be doing? Statistically, we're supposed to be dying before then. But in reality, if there's no such thing as aging other than a very dumb belief, since we get brand new bodies all the time, it really is a belief. If we can get rid of that belief and set a goal on restoring our bodies, just like we would restore an old car. We had a 1965 Mustang that was all rusted out and the engine worn out and everything. And they took it into the shop and restored it, everything back to like new condition. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between, well, actually it would probably drive a little bit better because they have some of the steering parts and everything that they put in. It would actually run better than the brand new Mustang in 1965. Well, that's kind of like our bodies. They'll run better than when we were 30 years of age, because they'll have a better endurance and a lot of other advantages. Does that sound like an exciting goal?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll make a commitment to all of you. If you make a commitment to your body to do this, we'll commit to help you in every way that we can with the information that you need, the tools, and the guidance. Okay? But I caution you, do not take too big of a step, but make a commitment to get to supporting the intestinal tract. In the email that we'll send you tomorrow, you'll have the simplified steps. Okay? Make that commitment, and I guarantee you results. Why? Because I've watched every step of this over and over again for all these years, and it works. But you've got to realize that you are the mechanic, and these are only tools. Like the sign on the wall said, I've never seen a box of tools yet that could overhaul an engine. Needs the mechanic. You're the mechanic. Did you have a question?
I did.
Yes.
You mentioned the BioFilm Cleanse.
Yes.
And what is that, and how does it help with Candida?
Okay, the Candida is locked in place because of the biofilm in the intestinal tract. Lemon juice cuts mucus real well. We have a combination, which is our Baltone. We put mastic gum in with the Baltone, which mastic gum has been found to be very effective in helping to break down the biofilm and to kill the bacteria of H. pylori and Candida. And then as part of the flush, besides doing the equivalent of the master cleanse enhanced by the fiber, mastic gum, and all of this, you also use a systemic enzyme that has been found to be able to help break the biofilm down, kill bacteria, eat fibrous material, clean the bloodstream, clean the tissue. Very powerful systemic enzyme. But the whole kit just helps you get that intestinal tract prepared for the rest of the commitment. Actually, for those of you that feel like you really want to get serious about that, I would suggest for you to go ahead and talk to Janice about the biofilm flush and start with that, because you get that intestinal tract cleared properly and functioning well, and everything else will be so much easier. I've watched it for years because I didn't realize how serious the biofilm is and how common it is for a person to have one, either in the stomach or the colon. But to start by clearing that and then being consistent with the detox baths and all the other steps, you take the burden off from that poor liver. Then you get the gallbladder flushes going, clearing in all these ways, simplify the intake, and it all works together. Start getting all 8 cylinders firing again.
Right on.
Yeah. All right? How are we doing for time? We got 10 more minutes. Question and answer. Yes, ma'am.
So if you're really kind of underweight and then you're doing this, is it gonna...
Okay, remember, the question is, what happens if you're underweight and you do cleansing? Keep in mind that you've got 3, besides the bone structure, you've got 3 volumes of weight. You have fat cells, tissue cells, and garbage. Everybody has an excess of garbage. You will lose weight no matter how skinny you are. Okay, but as you look in the toilet, remember, there's nothing that you're going to lose that you want to keep. Let it go. You want tissue cells and you might want more fat cells. How do you get more fat cells? Increase your caloric intake and your assimilation, ability to assimilate. A lot of people are too thin because they're not able to assimilate for some reason. Figure that out and assimilate larger volumes of calories. If you want more tissue cells, stop and think of a bodybuilder. How do you build tissue cells? They're built with toning exercises, lifting weights, and taking more protein. Okay? But don't worry about the weight loss during a 6-day cleanse, because you can't lose tissue weight that fast. You're losing tissue weight faster by not doing it because of the cellular destruction, because of the sewage that you're holding on to. Okay? Yes. Yes, you. Don't be so shy, Jen.
The BioFilm Cleanse is 6 days, 6 Baltones approximately a day. There's enough for 36 Baltone drinks in 6 days. You can have 3, you can have 9. You do the XL-zyme 3 times between the Baltones, and then you're doing a detox spa bath 3 of the days, and a gallbladder flush on day 4. The directions are clear, but if you have any questions, now is a good time to ask Mick how it's working. There is no food. You're eating Baltone.
And any cravings that you have are right here in the head.
That's a
Okay.
scary place.
What's that?
That's a scary place.
It is a scary place. Try and stay out of there. Yeah.
So I get a lot of people that are still eating. Is that why they're not producing stones and they're struggling so much? Or is it the lack of hydration? Because they're also very dehydrated, but I don't know if that's because they're eating the food.
During the
During
the
like
flush?
a gallbladder cleanse or whatever, they just don't want the food.
It's a waste of
And
time.
people will say that, I mean, they'll come from here and tell me, well, I didn't tell them I was still eating, and they're struggling. It's like, well, you gotta.
The results that we get is determined by the sacrifice that we make. You know, it is a sacrifice, and it takes discipline. And if a person doesn't want to sacrifice or discipline themselves, they can blame the program, they can blame other people, or whatever they want,
Right.
but they're failing themselves.
Do you think that it's not beneficial if they're not going to fully commit to doing it?
Well, I'm sorry?
If they're not going to refrain from food, do you think that it's just not?
They're mostly just wasting their time.
Yeah.
Because a cleanse is to stop poisoning. It's kind of like trying to heal your thumb when you keep hitting it with a hammer every day. It doesn't work. You got to stop breaking whatever you're working on to fix
Yeah.
while you're working on correcting it. So yeah, the food has got to go, because food is not the answer. Food is the problem.
When you're doing the cleanse, is it okay to work out? I mean, should you refrain from?
You should
being
do
strenuous?
lighter, you shouldn't be building up during that time, but aerobic type exercises and things like that will help remove more garbage. So yes, light activity is an enhancement to the cleanse.
Is there any bentonite clay or psyllium seed in that cleanse? Or?
Well, there's psyllium seed, psyllium husk, flaxseed powder, slippery elm, oat fiber, aloe vera. There's everything to gently move everything out and then heal. And it's a complete substance. It takes care
Does
of
it
it.
kind of like expand in the gut
Yeah.
and give you that like makes you feel full?
Yes, so you feel like you've had a good meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do what, like
It's
three
satisfying.
of those a day or
6.
6 a day?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how
6
people can
fiber
do
meals
that.
a day.
So you're totally
Yeah,
satisfied.
you're full.
Yeah.
Should you also be doing a colonic with that?
That would only be beneficial. Yeah. Whatever, to get everything cleared out.
So you need to have 6 days, need a rest from, you gotta commit yourself to.
Yes, one other thing is you will have diarrhea during that time, almost the whole 6 days.
Oh, okay.
So the first 2 days, it would be good for you to be close to a toilet, but after the second day, you can pretty well control it. Even though it's still diarrhea, you can control it okay.
So after the 6 days, is there some kind of a maintenance package that you guys offer?
Definitely. After the cleanse, then you want to shift into the level of body chemistry support that you feel comfortable with. Everybody should at least start out with what we call the starter kit. It's so simple, anybody could do it. If you feel confident that you're going to be disciplined enough to do 2 detox baths a week, then you do the basic body chemistry support. And then think about the next step, and when you're ready, then move into the complete body chemistry support. And then from there, what I was talking about with the baby steps, it's like, let's say one month you want to work on your vision. We just put together a program that will enhance any eye problem. It'll help to reverse any eye problem. If you want to work on your adrenal glands for a month, those are the especially for programs where while you're keeping the foundation moving forward, then you can target specific areas for maybe a month at a time and just rotate. If you have more than one issue that you would like to strengthen and work on, just do it for 1 month and then give yourself a break and just do the basics again. So there's no rush, and then work on another one when you're ready. But keep in mind, what we're really trying to accomplish here is to reverse a lifetime accumulation of garbage, because that's what all disease is made of, and to get the vitality high enough within the body to where the body can then start healing itself. Okay, now there's a guy that told me about after he got to a certain point where his vitality came back to a certain high level, he observed a problem with his eyes that had developed 20 years earlier. Within a 1 week period, his body was able to heal that eye problem. And that helped me to realize, wow, we've got to get the vitality of the body up so that it can go back and heal all these damages that it never had the energy to heal before.
Is there any necessity to prepare for the cleanse, or like do anything prior to the cleanse, or just start?
No, we used to, you do?
I think hydration is crucial.
Yeah.
Well, hydration should be just ongoing process. With the 6th day, you're going to create diarrhea, but I would say that would be a priority, is if the first day, if you don't have diarrhea, then take enough magnesium of any form to force diarrhea. Even if you just run down to the drugstore and get one of those little bottles of magnesium citrate and drink that down, make sure you have diarrhea the first day. Because if you're detoxifying, anytime you're doing any form of detoxification, if you're releasing poison from tissue storage into these pathways that are blocked and clogged, and you're not getting it out of the body, you're poisoning yourself. And so diarrhea is a necessity to begin with. And then just keep the ball rolling, keep clearing through the intestinal tract, out through the skin, and you'll succeed. You can't do anything but succeed.
What's the benefit of the erythritol and xylitol in the 6-day cleanse?
The reason for the erythritol and xylitol during the cleanse is to keep the sugar level down, because your body can't break those down and utilize them as sugars. And so you're basically evacuating them. We want to starve the candida and other viruses and bacteria, because all the sludge suckers love fermentation. That's one of our big problems, is we've been led to believe that we are glucose burners, and we're not. We should be working off from ketones. And the fact that we've been using glucose for at least the last 100 years, that's why we have all the funguses and cancer cells and all the diabetes and all these sugar-induced problems. So the reason is so that we starve all those little hitchhikers that are in our bodies. Yes.
I was wondering if you can comment. A lot of times my wife will like shy away from the challenge or the cleanse because she'll have to like work real hard for a certain period of time. She doesn't want to have to like run to the bathroom all day. Like, what kind of words of advice could you share with us? So
Maybe start the cleanse on a weekend or whenever you have time off, so that it's more under control and not so disruptive. But during the 6th day,
you just got to do it.
you just got to bite the bullet and make the toilet your best friend.
Okay.
How do you replenish electrolytes when you're having all that diarrhea? How do you stay hydrated?
Well, you'll probably be depleting your sodium chloride, because you're not going to be taking any sodium chloride in. That would probably be a good idea to maybe even take some salt during the cleanse, but it's not going to be that big of a deal where it would be a real problem. But on a daily basis, basically what you want to do is, like hydration, you want to live a life where you're hydrated, and live a life where you have salt, all your salt up and everything, so that when you do a cleanse, it's not going to devastate your body, right? Any body then, if it's properly hydrated and salted on an ongoing basis, 6 days won't cause any problems.
What if it's not? What if you know you're low in sodium?
Then take a pinch of sodium a couple times a day through that time period, yeah. If you know you're sodium deficient, yeah.
Have you had any experience with anyone with tinnitus, ringing ears?
Tinnitus will be a combination of what's going on right here in your neck.
Right here?
Yeah.
Does that have to do with the lymphatic system at all?
No, it's mostly circulatory, which a buildup in the arteries can cause the sound as well as the nerve flow from the neck. Those are the two main reasons why you'd have the whistling and the sound. So sometimes by enough gallbladder flushes that could reverse it, but it's usually a problem with the neck that's got to be corrected before it'll clear.
So would the detox help with that at all? Not really.
This whole detoxification process helps every problem.
Everything, right?
But again, like some of the other targeted issues, you want to target getting the neck corrected and then keep the gallbladder clearing so that you clear the arteries. Okay, we've run out of time. I want to thank all of you for coming, and we'll give you some more information tomorrow. And keep in mind, you have the privilege of having the best health coach on the planet in Janice. Take advantage. I listen to her all day long, coaching people. I would like to encourage everyone, though, to get as much information off of the website as you can, and start exercising, listening to your own intuition, because that's your personal best information. And try and hold the questions down a little bit for Janice. She's got a lot of people that she's coaching, but she's excellent. She can definitely get you to the finish line, okay? All right, I want to thank all of you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.